Video recording with Bryce too.
Yeah, we kind of have to.
We should ask them to come over.
That we should.
Be
we
like,
should.
come
Right
over.
after. We should text them. Be like, please.
They haven't responded to me.
Fuck them. Anyways.
I know. I'm like offended.
Anyways, let's.
Then they can think about if it's about them. You know.
Welcome everyone to the very first episode of Jovan's Chismes. I am your host, Jovan. And joining me today is not only my best friend, my ride or die, my absolute person who I can't live in this world without, but also my producer, my very, there's so much that I could say. Sexy, dependable.
Don't hype me up because don't hype me that
tiny waist.
I don't have a tiny waist.
Yes, tatas ready to pop out.
I
once they're out
have
of the binder.
regular C cup if you were interested.
Close to a D at this point.
I'm a D. I'm a double D, and if I'm 32.
I'm my bestie Azazel. Yay!
Hello. You hyped me up too much, so now if we ever go to visuals or when we go to visuals, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
You're gonna be like, "I'm gonna go to Brazil real quick." Like,
I need to go to Brazil, Colombia. I need to go to Turkey.
Not Turkey.
Get a rhino, full facelift, rhinoplasty.
Oh my god, a new chin implant.
I should get a chin implant so I have a jawline.
You're like, then I'm gonna go to LA to get a nose job.
No, I would get the nose job in Turkey. Have you seen Turkey's nose jobs?
Oh my god, I know.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm kind of afraid because the doctors don't have.
And they're cheap.
They're cheap.
From what I'm hearing. Don't quote me. I'm not assuming just because it's a different country than America that it's going to be cheap.
You're like, I don't know the difference in currency.
I've just heard it's cheaper to get it in Turkey than to get it here.
Oh
but to be fair, there's so many things that are overpriced here because it's America. People go to Mexico all the time to get work done.
I mean,
their lips.
I mean, the North's income is mainly dentists from Mexico having white people come over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like...
Ooh, do you think I should get lip filler? I feel like I need lip filler in the top lip. I have a juicy bottom lip.
I agree because I'm not trying to make this episode about this, but I'm going to say this real quick, and that is that whatever you want to do to your body in terms of procedures, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. I don't give a... If you want to live your fantasy, whether you're straight, gay, lesbian, bi, gender nonconforming, whatever you want to do, if you're a sex worker, just do it. I have never been judgmental about that.
Hashtag deep,
so
hashtag
if my bestie
real.
ever wants to get fillers, I'm for them.
Well, minus your inspirational speech, should I get fillers on my top?
Anyways, welcome everyone to episode 1 of Jovan's Chismes. As you all aware from the title that I kind of gave it, Cautionary Tale.
We're still doing that?
Yeah, because I just want to, because it was, if not the biggest thing that happened in my life, and given the fact that my bestie was kind of there for all of it, I could not have
unfortunately
I could not have thought of a better person to do this episode with. But now, the first 2 times we tried to do this, I held back a lot, and I felt like I was always defending still to this person, when in reality I don't feel like I should anymore. I think part of what it was in terms of healing from what happened is learning not to defend this person anymore, and truly accepting the fact that, in my eyes, at least to me, they're dead. The person who I knew that they were is gone. And that gives me...
Are we talking about, because it's interesting that you bring that up, because I feel like in the first 2 episodes, at least in the first episode, I do agree with you that you held back. Mm-hmm. I don't think in the second attempt, though, you did. And I don't think in the second attempt, maybe if I'm remembering incorrectly, mm-hmm. I don't think you were defending who I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to defend somebody who allegedly has protected certain crimes.
And I just want to say this really quick before we start off. I managed, consensually got permission from everyone involved to tell this story. And even once again before that, that's why we're here. Because we're here to talk about this. And I feel like it's just time to get this story out there. And what better one than to not only for like clickbaits and views, but to get people's attention, because I feel like the one major thing in my life was everyone was asking me like what happened between me and this person. And for the longest time, I was always like, oh, just a falling out, when in reality, nobody really knows kind of the big story. So I'll condense it this time just for like time wise sake, and also because there's other things I really want to talk about. But all anybody has to know is I had a best friend for almost a decade. And I'm just going to say it, his name. And I know I'm
Insert the Nicki Minaj meme.
For everyone that knows, me and him were very close, always together. It was just us the entire time. And I would be in a friend group with him, with a bunch of other people. I won't list names, but for everyone wondering, no, it is not Kevin Moreno. I love Kevin. Kevin is like my brother. Kevin and I are still going strong.
Where my hug at?
Where my hug at? But
shout out to Kevin.
But yeah, shout out to
He's
Kevin.
my only friend on my Switch.
But unfortunately, Kevin has also gone through,
passed away. I'm just
no, oh my god, never say that. No, but Kevin has also gone through the same feelings that I have with this situation, and then also I know she's gonna be listening to this, but also so it's it's
I'm bleeping that name.
You should. I do. I always. But
I'm bleeping that name so hard.
I think for us it was so difficult because not only did we lose a best friend, but we were also betrayed, and quite frankly, we're all disgusted by what transpired. And all I want to say, and the way I'll say it, is that this person, and once again we're going with like allegedly, not only is a gaslighter, a manipulator, a complete narcissist, but has also done various allegedly. I keep saying allegedly. I want to be fine. I want to be protected and safe. But has committed numerous crimes. Like I'm not trying to exaggerate at this point. Like it's actual crimes. And I just want to say good luck whoever he ends up in people's lives, because it was something a lot to kind of grasp and keep just to kind of heal from. And I'll just let Azazel say a couple things, just because. Well, first of all, how did you feel when I first told you this? Like the initial reaction to me telling you, by the way, I just heard this like that this person was doing this.
Well, hold on, backtrack, because I actually didn't hear it from you first. I mean, I heard inklings and stuff from you, but when it came down to, at least like with the other person involved in the relationship,
That's
I didn't hear much about that other than like the fighting or when it would happen. What the behavior of though, I heard through first and foremost, and I think it was because at the time it was a little bit more complicated with just because just came back from Canada, and you had already had like inklings or issues with per se, but like I think first and foremost it was loud for her, at least, because when she came back, she wasn't greeted with the most welcoming presence from this person. I feel like it was more of a slow burn, where it was like it happened, but it was little by little, and then it hit you like I think more towards the end of summer, where you felt like all the little things had finally built up into something bigger, while with felt like it was already there.
Yeah.
Like you were like, I think what cemented it is, and we can get into it when we can, but that 4th of July trip.
Oh yeah.
Where I heard it firsthand, not from you. I actually heard it first. So So I have kind of a different perspective, I think, like on how it went down, at least with you, because I almost felt like when you were telling me, I already knew. And like it was just me, it was almost like you were just confirming a lot of the thoughts and behaviors, because I felt like even then I would discuss it with you, what talk to me about.
And I would still kind of be in like, oh, like
Yeah, it was
almost like
like,
in a denial stage.
yeah, it was very much it was giving denial. It was giving defensiveness. Like you were still going to bat for him. And I think also, and not to throw under the bus, but like you also had a weird like rekindling of a friendship with, because it almost felt like at first, because I wasn't coming to you first about things,
She was.
it was
It almost
almost
seems
like
like she would. To me, at least, it seems like she was pulling away.
she was pulling away. So you
Uh-huh.
had not only pulling away, you felt like something was off between you and I think like there was just so many dynamics at play and so many relationships that were at play that for me as an outsider looking in, it all kind of made sense as to how it panned out the way it panned out. But when you were telling me these things, it was nothing more of just confirmation for me that, you know, this person is as vindictive and as cruel as they are. I think what sealed the deal wasn't actually your story, was a story. I think
Yeah.
it's where when I finally got to hear, because I didn't get to hear about story through her. I heard it through mostly you. So obviously I only have your perspective from her perspective. But I'm sure she can say, like, I think it felt almost like she was setting stone when she spoke the truth, because anyone as close minus you and Ellen was like, she was very to the
Well, they lived
source.
together.
Yeah, they lived together. And so
And
like I think again, it was like a chain of events, I feel, that just happened to fall very close back to back.
and you do have a point, because you would talk more, and then the night that I came over and was just like, I just need to talk to you and I need to tell you what's going on. I just want to. The fact that not only were you ignoring on this trip your best friend that you've known since you were a child, but the fact that you were also simultaneously at the same time protecting an abuser while the abuse was happening and you were aware of what that abuser was doing, destroyed me. Because, as I've told you before, and now that everyone gets to listen in on this, um, I was in a very abusive relationship for little less than a year, but even then, the wounds and the scars that happened, I will never fully recover from.
Time doesn't time to like, you can be abused for 15 years, you can be abused for 3 months. Abuse is still abuse.
Yeah,
Of
a
course,
day,
like
2 weeks, it's still abuse.
I just like just hearing you say that, like putting a time on it, you should never put a time on how long a trauma happens to signify the time that you need to heal from it.
Oh no, I
And
meant like
like,
the entire time that it was happening to me.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying, but
yeah.
it feels like I don't think you should ever be like, it was only maybe less than half a year. Like, don't ever justify. It almost still feels like you're justifying it. And that's why I had to pause you right there, because I'm like, just because it's less than a year doesn't make it any less than somebody who's been abused for 15 years. Obviously, like the response is different from a 15-year trauma versus like a year trauma, but it's still trauma regardless, and you still feel the symptoms of it. And anyway, besides the point, that should have not, that's fucked up. I'll bleep that, but that's fucked up for somebody who knew you went through that and also knew the person in this case
Yeah,
scenario,
yeah.
and still, and I know family, for some people family's family, and like it's very hard to wrap your brain around somebody who you've known your entire life in some cases to do
But
something like that. But you should always believe the victims, always.
always,
And I
always.
think that it sucks for you, because for a while you felt like people didn't believe you for what happened, and it almost felt like it was rubbing in your face, that that action, even though it wasn't directed at you, it almost felt
That was the thing. That's what kind of broke my heart, because he was there for everything, and he saw everything, and he witnessed so much. And even after, me leaving my ex and whatever, he was still actively being there for me every day. And, well, honestly, he would still see the unsolicited things and the abuse even when we weren't around each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was truly devastating. And not only did I feel for the victim in this case, but it just took me back to kind of a lot of awful places that I thought I would never get back to. So it was also shock, like the initial shock, but also, I will admit it, at the time I didn't want to believe it. I was consumed by that denial, and I was like, okay. And many people would just be like, just don't talk to him. But there I go, trying to set something up to talk with him, and immediately his response, all three times, may I add, every single time. The first was me wanting to talk with him. And it was, oh, I'm sorry, I'm busy. And then followed by, oh, let's make a plan and this and that. The next two times, it was him wanting to talk to me, especially even after my birthday. And this is already like, we have not talked since the summer. And it's December and it's about to be January. Like, it's been a long time. And every time when I finally thought, it was always last minute, like, oh, sorry, I can't, I'm with family, or sorry, like, I'm doing. First of all, he doesn't really have a family. His mom basically abandoned him. She wants nothing to do with him or his brother. She's with her new fiance and his children. And then, father, you want to say it with me? Jail.
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 Jail for child
Jail.
pornography.
No, not jail. Prison.
Prison, actually.
Prison,
Federal
actually.
prison, because
Federal
he committed
prison.
a federal crime.
The raided his house. First of all, when I was told this,
dude, like that's the thing
oh
you
my
hear in
God.
TV. That's the thing you hear in Law and Order SVU.
10 terabytes
worth
of CP.
I have 1 terabyte of space on my Switch, and actually, I have a terabyte space on my PlayStation currently. I out of curiosity did look at the storage space, and I'm like, wow. I have 2 terabytes, I think, of space in my phone, and I'm like, that's a shit ton of photos. That's a shit ton of photos. I'm like, that, like, on his work computer, no less.
Oh my God.
On his work computer. Like, if you were going to be a criminal, why?
Computer.
And this,
and
like,
he was a lawyer.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm not going to say for what, but let's just say he was a top lawyer.
I mean, yeah.
That's like the supposedly the best of the best, and working for something powerful. The fact that this didn't spread wider is fucking insane to me.
Well, of course they had to keep it under wraps.
Of course, but at the same time,
I know.
I went into that man's house.
I know.
I was hugged by him, and I was told so many things by him. And the fact that was behind everything is another thing that I couldn't really.
I mean, I don't think we should focus on the father too much. We shouldn't really focus, but like, not to highlight, like, I mean, I'm sure. Behavior. I don't want to put any accusations or anything out there. I'm sure, like,
of course,
I don't ever wish that upon anybody, for their parent to be a child predator.
No.
Especially since, like, sometimes, not only are child predators on the computers, they're probably going to commit the crime physically at home or somewhere that they have access to children to. So I never want to focus on the father. But in this case, I think it does explain, though, a little bit of the behavior that this person exhibited and their brother exhibited, and, like, ultimately it's just very hard to grasp that when you've known them for so long, especially if you invited them to your home, into your life,
into
and like
your family,
family.
into your space. And that's the thing that I think was so hard for me to begin that process. It's like, and the way my therapist put it was the person who you thought you knew is in fact dead. And now you have to learn about this new person, who they really are. And that's going to be so difficult to accept. But I think the other thing was learning to process one thing after another.
Yeah.
And especially, and when I learned things from I think that was even more,
Yeah, it like solidified
it
it.
solidified it. And it was, but it was also terrifying and scary.
Well, I mean, it is hard. I mean, like, I think also the aspect of it with Jenna is that Jenna was also your friend, not your friend first, but became your friend.
Yeah, now.
And it's very difficult. And I mean, you can say this, like, even when we had conversations before we knew what was going on with this
Mm-hmm.
person, I understand why that is so shocking and jarring for you, because like months prior you were making
And
this person upset, and
you
it's
know
like,
what's fucked is
and
that,
it's like that's what abusers do. They don't
yeah,
just gaslight the victim,
they
they
gaslight
gaslight
everyone around them.
everyone around them.
And
So
that
like,
was every single time, especially if I asked him questions to clarify
oh,
every time. And then he would actually find ways to send proof to manipulate the truth still.
I
So
mean,
it
it's
was like,
easy to do that
it's
nowadays with
easy to do it.
technology. I
Exactly.
mean, you
And,
can manipulate texts and stuff, and like,
but it was also the same thing in high
and
school.
you know what? Like, it's not even just like manipulation text. Like, people
No.
who get abused often and every day
Mm-hmm.
eventually experience reactive abuse, where they hit and then they act out, and then the abusers like see like you're crazy, and like then they literally are like, I mean, everyone knows about the Amber Heard and uh
Johnny Depp
Johnny Depp
situation. Yeah.
case, where it's like, yeah, like she did fucked up shit, but he did too.
Yeah.
He absolutely fucking did. And a lot of her stuff, yeah, was reactive abuse. Absolutely. And I think that goes for the case for a lot of women. And not like to make this a gender thing, but like a lot of women out there and like feminine presenting people unfortunately have to deal with the brunt of that type of behavior, where they react and it's like suddenly they're vilified. And I think that's what happened in the case with, fortunately, is that because people were so close to, she was isolated. I mean, I'm sure she talked about being isolated at some point. She was isolated.
She
She had
did.
nowhere to go, and she only had the friends of the abuser. And now the friends of the abuser are thinking she's fucking crazy. So like, I can only imagine like
The feeling
the
of
feeling
just being alone,
alone, like
alone,
physically, emotionally, like mentally alone
everything.
every day.
And every day. And then to find out the most appalling and disgusting things on your shared computer,
And then,
and of not even of just like, okay, first of all, porn is one thing. It's pornographic material. It's one thing. But the fact that this material made her like physically sick and disgusted, she didn't describe to me fully what she saw, but it must have been enough for her to be like, "Oh, you seriously need help." And on top of that, it would also be on threads with other random strangers.
yeah,
And then on top of that, finding the, oh my god, I don't even know if I want to say it. But if you actively go on a website specifically for other minors to meet each other to just become friends, and you're actively talking to those minors to meet up with them, and you're 24, 25, You're a disgusting human being. You're a pedophile.
I mean, it's a power. All
It's a
pedophiles
power
have.
play.
All pedophiles have a power problem. I
Yeah.
mean, there's two types of pedophiles, right? There's the sociopathic ones,
Mhm.
and then there's the weird ones who. I mean, I learned this in my criminal behavior class. Shout out. Shout out. I actually wrote a report on it on, sociopathic pedophiles
My best is
and
smart, everyone.
and non-sociopathic pedophiles. And there's
Mhm.
pedophiles out there who genuinely believe that their only connection is to a child. But because it's I mean, it's sad, and you can't fully feel sad for them because they've committed crimes, right?
Mhm.
But you hear them talk, and they're like, yeah, this is how I was shown to love. And it's like
Mhm.
it's gross. Like, you
It's
feel genuinely
gross.
gross, but you can't help but feel like, man, like, if this kid was saved, would he have turned out to be a pedophile?
Mhm.
And then obviously you have your sociopath pedophiles, right? The ones that like love inflicting pain on children.
Yeah.
But ultimately both of them share one equal trait, and it's that they enjoy the power
Yeah.
that comes with, grooming a child, and like in some cases, unfortunately, torturing a child. And I think that's what I mean, like, again, I'm not going to make allegations. I am not a lawyer quite yet.
Yeah.
But
But
I can't prosecute somebody on the jury quite yet. I
Yeah.
need to get my license. And
You're almost there.
I'm
You're
almost there. I'm almost there.
You're very close to being there. But
But I think it's inevitably, like, not to put it out there, but this person's ex-partner was a minor when they first met.
oh my god, yes. And
And I remember because I
Mhm.
was at the beach with you, and this was during the time where I was trying to get with my ex-boyfriend. And I was at the beach with you and my ex.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could forget that whole trip. Seriously.
And I remember you telling me her age, and then I was like,
your face?
I was kind of like
Oh my
baffled
god.
for a second, because I was like, hold on, I'm sorry, she's not even out of high school, and
You're like, what?
and she's dating your best friend. And I did the math, because I was like, wait, isn't like 19 just turned 19?
No,
Or 20, sorry.
2021.
20. No, I feel like it was 20 because you were still 19.
I was just 19.
Yeah.
This was a while
Or
ago.
no, actually you both were 19, because you were older than him.
And we just graduated high school.
You guys just graduated a year ago.
Yeah.
Prior, and I was confused.
Yeah.
I was very confused, and I was like, okay. I mean, and I remember somebody justifying it. I couldn't remember if it was you or him, but someone was like,
Pretty sure it was him.
Was like,
saying,
oh, she's close enough to graduate high school anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like,
because
what?
I remember I remember distinctly, because we just graduated and the pandemic just started.
Yeah.
And
God, this is so long
oh my
ago.
god.
I don't want to say I feel aged.
But we do. Let's just we feel aged. The trauma aged us too much.
The pandemic wasn't my highlight. I'll just put it there. I am medicated now, though, so hashtag
we love medication.
We heal.
They're on tenazazine. I'm
on them antipsychotics, babe.
Antipsychotics, baby.
So I can be
a lifesaver.
But if you want me to be psycho for you, I'll turn into Joe Goldberg.
Oh my god!
And then I saw you.
What a great way to start the podcast. This is wonderful. We already got
so
into some
funny.
very heavy stuff.
Can we watch you sometime? I've gotten Sid addicted to it.
I love that for Sid.
I love that show.
Sid is so. Oh, not get off topic.
Sorry. We can get back to that topic after the story.
Episode, probably later on. But I just to like go. Basically, that's all anybody needs to know, because there's a lot more.
Fucked up.
Huh?
This is the first episode, and we didn't tell them how we met.
Oh my gosh.
we'll finish the story and then we'll go.
Let's edit that in all the way in the beginning. Let's find a way to like take that chunk and like.
Oh God, you can tell how
Oh my
great
God.
of a script writer we are.
We are so fantastic. Anyways, but not to.
You know what's sick is that they haven't texted me back.
They're lame.
I
Anyways,
know. Who do you look fucking pretty for? That's what I'm wondering.
Anyways, I'm trying not to. Anyways,
he can't take me seriously, guys. Look at me then.
Whoa, hold up.
Pussy.
Give me a minute. I'm trying not to cry. This
Maruchan.
bitch is asking me for Maruchan. You for sure. You for sure. No, but
Do you have the lime and spicy chili one specifically?
I think anybody
Period poo.
truly understands kind of the just kind of heartbreak, and that I think my heart breaks more, and it's not even for me anymore at this point. I've accepted what has happened, and I never ever want to see this person again in my life for all I care about. Like, I never want him anywhere near me or my family or my friends. But I feel for everyone else too. I feel for especially to hear someone that I care for and love so much to go through what she went through, just having to just sit there and just feel so helpless because of what she went through was just, I don't know, it's and we're closer than ever now, and she's even on this podcast, and we've talked about it too, but heal for a very long time. There's still moments where I find myself
hope not only one level of trauma with this friendship where it was neglect and obsession. I mean, you haven't even got into the fact that this person was obsessed with you. And like, and I'll just put it there, like he was obsessed with you, and
I don't even want to.
Like nobody should. It was. I mean, not to make a joke about the show You, but it almost was like Joe. It was almost like Joe motherfucking Goldberg or Will Bettelheim.
Oh my God.
But it was very much obsessed like that. Like he was sick. He was sick not only like sexually, but sick just in the brain. Him trying to sabotage every relationship you were in, and he was not outwardly gay. Like there's so many layers to this. Like it's not even just the crime.
Oh yeah, that's another thing, folks.
And like the abuse he was enacting on both you and especially. But it's also that other layer of just like he deeply was a sick individual, and like unfortunately like he kept it under wraps for so long. And the way he would just make comments about who you were dating or who you were seeing or if you should be seeing anybody, and like, and the fact that he would try to get others to comment on that. I mean, I will say I fell victim to it.
Even after
There were times where I would agree with him and be like, okay, like I don't think you should be dating that person, but it wasn't like I was coming about it in a sick, obsessive way, but he was, and he enjoyed the fact that people would agree with him, but it was never out of good intention.
Yeah.
It was always out of some perverted fantasy he had about you, and I think that just perfectly encapsulates the just like the true sociopath in him, where it's his, again, not only sexually he needs this power, but it's like emotionally and physically he craves being in control and being in power in all types of relationships, friendships, relationships. Like it doesn't matter. It's an addiction, and he's sick. I don't have any other way to describe it. And like I know that sounds dramatic without all of the context, but like if you know, like you know? And like again, I think very much like Joe. could not stand the fact that you wanted anyone but him. Unfortunately.
Every day I'm still learning to not only cope with it, but to just learn to heal from it, because there's so many there's so many memories, there's so many things that I currently still have that have attachments to that, to those memories and to those moments. And even there's constantly things and people around me that just, there's always a reminder there. And it's like I still don't know how to handle it sometimes. And I think that I especially don't know now how to navigate and meet new people. Or even sometimes with people who I do know and that I have known for a very long time. I it's those moments where I'm just like, I don't know if I should, and I'm not going to say anybody's name specifically, but you know who I'm talking about. There was a very long time where I was like, I don't know if I can trust this person. I don't know if I can, and we won't discuss why, but I would. Well,
No, I think we can. Like, I think
that's true.
mutually both of us went through this thing with this person, and I listen. I'm all about honest and transparency. Like, I won't name the name, but like they know who they are, and like I, you know, I think we have different responses though when it came to that situation
Yeah.
because you have like trauma response where you've like it's so sad that you have to go not only like you can't just trust this individual because of a bad history, you almost feel like you can't trust this person because like what malicious intent do they have, like
I
the
I
way
hate
that
doing
Zach
that
did.
so much.
So like
I truly do.
yeah, like you never and it's so terrible that like you never
No.
want to assume the worst out of anybody, but what happens when all you have seen is the worst first from someone so close to you? It's tough. I don't blame you. Like, and every time that you've come to me with a conversation of like, I don't know if I should trust this person, and like in general, not just this individual that we talked about, but like just in general, I never I never feel this need to like tell you to move on. You know? And I know like and that's not even what I was intentionally like referencing, but like put that out there. Like I've never told you to move on because I understand. It's not my journey to heal from that. It's yours. And like if you don't trust somebody, I tell you it's, like don't don't place them into that box because it's not fair to them. They haven't, I mean, I don't want to be like all American corporate lawyer, but like innocent, innocent till proven guilty. Innocent till proven guilty. Innocent till proven guilty in my book. And I know you treat it as guilty till proven innocence, but I think
Which is sad.
I mean, I think a lot of people do that with any level of trauma they've had in friendships. And I think it's not fair to you or to the other person because life is all about the human experience. And if you deny yourself the human experience in meeting new people, then you lack any human growth, I believe. And so, I mean, I will always continuously encourage you, even if it's scary. And, sometimes like
And you do a wonderful job at it. I think that you you don't hold my hand.
I don't need to. You're an
But you don't
adult.
need to. But you also get to the point where you're just like, I'm just gonna be real and I'm gonna tell you this. Like, I think it would be nice if you take that next kind of.
And even like if we want to use that person as an example, prior to, the tragedy occurring.
Oh God. Oh God.
Even before the tragedy occurred, I always encouraged you, even with the person, to be as open to any possibility with them as possible. Even if like, you were hurting and like shit happened essentially. Like shit happens. Like you
Shit
can't
happens.
the thing is what I'll tell you is that you can never predict a certain circumstance or a certain
Yeah.
outcome. because quite literally, as much as you'd like to believe you have in control of everything in your life, you don't.
I don't.
You only have control with yourself. And
Exactly.
like, as much as that person did fuck up originally and, you know,
Mhm.
sometimes continues to fuck up.
Oh,
uh,
oh,
um,
Oh, 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 oh! I didn't.
I firmly believe though that like you should never define your life experience to a singular moment.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like I think you've done a lot of healing and growing. I think
I mean,
since during that time.
I mean, for goodness sakes, there's been a lot of new people who I've met who I've
I mean, like
managed to like trust and
talk about this guy named Liam at our job. I haven't met him yet, but
I just want to point this out. Liam is officially my adopted son.
oh my god, not you at this age having adopted children.
Exactly. No,
My adopted children are one of them is named Carrie. Lip is a new adopted foster child.
I just want to
Hasn't been adopted, just as my foster child right now.
that's the thing that I think is the other thing that I will give myself credit for, and that has to do a lot with not only the fact that y'all have been so patient and kind with me, and that's really all a lot of people ever need.
Yeah,
but
you
also,
audience have been kind and patient.
oh yeah, oh god, I'm so sorry for making everyone wait this long. Yeah, I mean, because I know a lot of people have been wanting to hear this story, but also, I mean, I will give myself credit, and there were those moments where I felt scared, and then I told myself, no, maybe I shouldn't. I should, like you said, I shouldn't put people in this box. I shouldn't assume everyone's going to hurt me. And because of that, now I have so many new people in my life who I adore so much. And
I mean,
happens
not to play
be
like
one of
devil's
them.
advocate, but like, what if someone put you in a box? How
That's
would you
true.
feel?
I wouldn't feel nice
You wouldn't
because
feel
I would feel
nice.
like, what did I do? But then
And like, you know, I mean, like, not to put our friendship on the line, but like, I put you in a box for a really long time when we first met.
Yeah.
Did that feel good?
No.
No.
I also knew that you as a person, and this is just the way I think. I know it's not the way everyone else thinks, but like to an average person, they would be like, oh, like what did I do? But when I first met you, I was like, they probably went through a lot. And I think that's just
And what do
because,
you think people think of you when they see that?
and that's what I've been trying so hard
You
in
should
terms
have
of,
more empathy for yourself, is what I'm saying.
that's the other thing I've been trying to learn how to do for myself.
I'm gonna have
And
myself some candy corn.
go
This is
for
my
it.
version of popcorn.
Oh my God. But I've been learning to not only adore people more and learn to trust people more, especially because my friendships with people mean so much to me. Um, but like you said, I think learning that empathy again for myself and unlearning all the horrible shit was, I think, the most crucial thing. Because I think for me, one of the other great loves that I have that is now kind of cementing itself back into my life is this platonic love that I just have with people. And for so long, it was gone.
You don't have any platonic love for me? You suck.
You know what I meant. Oh my god. But like
Wording was getting a little too loose.
Actually, hold on.
I'm like, hold on.
Let's
Let's reword.
Rewind. Two hearts this time.
Like you didn't have that platonic love? You fake. You for fake.
No, but oh my god. But learning to have that platonic love again, I think has been, if not the most beautiful thing I could have ever relearned to have again in my
I
life.
love platonic love.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. And
I have so much platonic love for you and Sid.
I cannot imagine my life without y'all. And I think it would be even more devastating if I didn't have love for any of the people in my life. And that especially goes for friends because y'all are no longer like, yeah, like I have casual friends and things that are like I have close friends, but
Could never imagine having casual friends.
I know, but like you and Sid and Nando and Kevin and Evelyn and Rhiannon and Ivan and like so many people, like learning to love again, I think, has been my biggest kind of.
You never loved me?
Sound dramatic, but I mean, I'm being honest. That what did you say?
It's like, what? Did you not love me at some point?
I did. Shut up. More than like learning to have it again. I think was the biggest hurdle I had to do, besides all the other parts of my healing. But I mean,
Yeah.
thus far, I truly am living in my most authentic kind of self
Period,
that I have in a long
queen.
time. I'm being serious. Like, if I'm being honest, like this point in my life, I mean, for God's sakes, we're recording this in my apartment.
I know you
Where
live on your own now. That's been a plan for years.
My beautiful partner, I here with
Gay.
you. I am truly becoming more myself I give myself credit, and where I was a year and a half ago to where I am now,
Oh, absolutely.
I literally I don't recognize the person, and that's a good thing. Like
I mean, like I said, the human experience,
it's the
right?
human experience, you know.
It's growing, it's evolving, it's all that, like
Healing those scars.
that like white woman.
Oh my
like
God.
vegan appraisal.
Exactly.
Growing and evolving.
I'm growing. Oh my God. No, I'm
just kidding, but it is the human experience.
That I'm in my eternal sunshine.
Make that my thing, the human experience. I should put that as my bio on Instagram. Looking for the human experience. When I was giving you that speech and I said the human experience, I don't know what in my brain. And I went,
That's your quote. That's your quote for the rest of your life. It's literally on your gravestone. It's in lettering. You're gonna put
in cursive.
Human. It's cursive.
Human
In cursive and in a font. You're gonna put the human experience. It's just gonna look like fucking scribbles on your gravestone.
Human experience on Bumble. That's crazy.
Oh my God, you're really so Tumblr core.
I am so Tumblr core sometimes.
No, but
I show up to work in Tumblr core.
you do.
Sometimes I think about bringing back my old e-boy looks.
Oh my God, it was a vibe. It was a whole thing.
It was such a time before I went into such a heterosexual relationship that like I was like, how did I went?
Listen, e-boys are gone. You can bring them back.
How did I go from e-boy to like cottage curl?
Oh, that's not. Oh, that's not.
Cottage core girl. Like, how did I go there?
I never want to see that brown hair again. That was disgusting.
Long hair with the pastel colors. Like, what happened to me?
What happened to them?
I still think about that. Like, that period of my life is so like, if you were to put like my eras in like a timeline, that
one is like we seal it in a box.
It's so confusing.
Its own book.
It's the dark universe of the DC, like, you know, the DC dark verse.
Oh my God,
that's my dark verse.
The DC universe, and then the dark universe.
Yeah, there's like Alpha Universe, and
that's where the
like the Batman Who Lost is. No, I was so like I literally had highlights. I literally had like brown
hair,
red brown hair, like my natural hair.
I was wearing like this
pastel-y shit.
Like
clothes from Ann Taylor's. So if you want to see what Ann Taylor clothing looks like, you can just look it up.
Disgusting. And at the time, me and Sid were just kind of like, what the fuck is...
And my hair to my ass.
Your hair to your ass. That's not normal for Azazel.
No, I literally am about to cut my hair again because it's already past like...
Your shoulder.
My shoulders. Yeah. So I need to cut it.
I like, that's the other thing is like, when you start seeing the change in people and you know it's not right, and you can tell that it's like this... almost like
all knew something was going on.
Something was wrong.
Because the second I dyed my hair brown and I gave myself bangs, you know I lost that identity.
As in WandaVision, I'm glad I showed up in the nick of time because that bitch was one wrong breakdown away from cutting her own bangs.
No, that was literally me. And I like, it was so weird because like I was flat ironing his clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was
You
like,
don't do that.
I don't do that.
You don't do that.
I don't do. Who was I? I don't even flat iron my own clothes. What I do is like maybe steam some clothes.
Not full on like ironing.
No,
that
like
was
I was
its
putting
own
on
thing.
a towel and like I was ironing his clothes for the next day, like for his day at work. I would make him food for his lunch, like if he came to the apartment.
50s housewife.
I was making fajitas.
Which you know how to cook.
I know how to cook, yeah.
For a man?
But for a man?
A man who didn't do shit?
True.
Who didn't have money?
Who didn't make me come? I was such a porn star. Okay, so if you ever want porn star tips, you can call me because I was the ultimate porn star for that year.
The editing on this is gonna be fun later.
The fake orgasms went crazy.
Bitch, oh my god.
I did that and still look like a Christian girl. And I would cook for him. I'd clean for him.
Like I said, 50s housewife core.
I would be like waiting for him at home. Like, very terrible. And it's the only relationship. I didn't go out with friends very often.
People as much.
No.
You were very much.
Well, because and it wasn't like it was okay. So like, let me preface that it's not like he was telling me not to go out with friends, but I was so like, he was like my oxygen. Like that's the only way I could describe it, is that he was my oxygen tank and I needed him to survive. So the thought of like ever like leaving and like being with other people, like even when I hung out with friends, like my friends would come over to my or our apartment, sorry. The name was not in my lease. The lease was not in my name. I was about to say that backwards. I've been doing that lately. I don't know why I've been saying things backwards, but
you're like, anyway.
But like, if anything was like, if I was hanging out with you, I think there was only one time in the entire time where I was in a relationship with him where I hung out with you outside of that apartment.
Yeah.
And it was that time we went to Red Robin together.
Yeah.
I think like
also,
honestly,
that was a period where I didn't see you for a while until then.
Nobody did.
Nobody saw you.
Everyone thought I fell off the face of the planet, and I didn't. I just was like, I also, I mean, looking at it now versus then, I mean, I'm looking at it in a lens of like, obviously it hasn't been that like where it's like a decade of like self-reflection, but it's been a couple years, you know? And like, I'm like, man, I was a kid. I was a teenager. I was still a teenager, even though I was technically an adult. I was a teenager. And like, I mean, if I were the age now, like if I met him, let's say I was still working at Sky High and I met him the age now, I feel like it would have been more age appropriate for our relationship. But I think even then, like he was in his early 20s and you can already tell, like even in our relationship, like he was elsewhere mentally while I was still coming out of high school, you know? Like when you're dating somebody fresh out of high school, you don't understand that like they don't have the same life experiences as you, and like also you don't have like the same like concept of like adult living.
Because you and this is what we'll talk about in the second episode, but you had to learn how to become an adult really quickly. And I feel like with him, and I don't mean to sound so cliche, but it happens all the time. And I feel like people just, once again, don't really like to mention this or talk about this. But the fact that he grew up from a place of privilege, big time.
Yeah.
It really blinded him and made him arrogant to so many different things. He felt like anything was easy.
To this day and age, if someone tells me that I'm mature for my age, I can't help but cringe.
Yeah.
And it's because of him. And I there's be moments where I'm like talking to my therapist and it's like moments like that stick with me, because I'm just like, I was a kid. Like I of course, maybe I understood the world a little bit differently, and that's really because of the way my parents brought me up. Honestly, like my mom had and as much as I had a tough relationship with her, I have a better relationship now. As much as she, is blunt, I get my bluntness and directness from somebody, and it's her, because she from a young age told me real shit that was happening.
Mhm.
From a young age, I did get like the sexual abuse talk and like the
Mhm.
sex talk because she was a victim. I mean, not to air out her dirty business, but she
Yeah.
was a victim at her age. And like, it's
Mhm.
so sad to hear, not to get emotional, but like, it's very hard to hear that. So like, I understood the world a little differently when I was young because I had to have those conversations because it was all out of survival for my mom. And she is such an anxious woman. I love her, but she's such an anxious woman. Like
Mhm.
the thought of me walking out just like 5 blocks in the middle
And
of
she
the
was
night,
already thinking the worst
she's
things
already thinking I'm gonna get
imaginable.
kidnapped and
Yeah.
killed. And so like I once I turned 18, understood the world a little differently. And I mean, my mom taught me how to write checks from a very young age. Like she taught me how to survive because in her brain, like it
Mhm.
wasn't because like I'm forcing my kid to grow up. It's like,
Yeah.
what if I'm gone? Like I need my kid to survive.
My kid to survive. And you know, that's the thing that he just never understood.
He never understood that
Because
because he
everything
didn't
was
have
always
it.
handed to him
And like
constantly.
and it's not even that. I mean, like we can get into the technicalities, but he accused me of stealing money from him. I mean,
Oh my
you
God,
saw
when you told me that, I
when
was
you
like,
I mean, you witnessed it firsthand. Like
yeah.
you were there for that call.
Yeah.
And listen, I feel like everyone in my life, and this is the thing that pissed me off. It was that conversation and then the conversation following where he's like, I don't believe anything that happened to you. And like I said,
That was
hard
Oh my
because I sitting there, I was like, did I use him for money? I
Yeah.
honestly couldn't recall
he was trying to gaslight you
in that phone call
in that phone call.
because like I feel like I don't really ask for my friends for money. I don't really use my friends for credit cards or wallets, and I've dated broke people. I mean, if I really didn't wanted him for the money, I would have broken up with him because he couldn't even keep a job. The fuck do you mean I want your money? You know, like bitch, I was paying rent for at one point. Like the fuck do you mean? But I think what stung was when he's like, I don't believe anything that you've told me about your parents. And like it's not your place. Like, you may have a different perspective, sure. But my parents, at least my mom recently can tell you, yeah, she fucked up with me as a kid. She admitted she's hit me before. She'll admit it. Is she proud of it? No. But am I proud for the way I also was acting as a teenager? Absolutely not. Can I say I was a little shit sometimes? Yeah, but it's because I was dealing with a lot. But you know, and it's again, he also didn't have the same experience. Of course, he's half Mexican, and I'm not ever gonna deny somebody their, ethnicity and like deny them of that. But it's very different. Very, but it's very different growing up in a first generation household versus a like third, fourth generation household. And let alone growing up with two very Mexican parents. I mean, his parents, his dad is Mexican, but like, he's not traditionally like immigrant Mexican, And like there were so many dynamics he simply couldn't understand that like he never bothered try to understanding. And anyway, not to sidetrack, but yeah, I basically changed my whole identity just so I could please him, which you should never do. Don't ever do that because you'll be miserable and you'll literally have mental breakdowns all the time, which I would cry all the time. I think what's so funny is that like I don't cry. I'm not a crier because I don't cry very often. I feel like I don't cry very often. I mean, at least my roommate can vouch. I don't cry very often. And when I cry, it's like maybe my eyes tear up, maybe a couple tears, and then I call it quits. But with that relationship, Jovan, it was like crying was my second nature. Like it was like all the time I was crying, and it was
like I'm a very emotional person, so I feel it very outwardly and it comes out in tears. For Azazel, I think they not only internalize it a little bit more, not to speak for them, but also that is true. You don't really see them cry. And that is because of not only the upbringing, but how they cope with some. And by the way, not just because they're my bestie, but seeing them be as resilient as they are is truly like one just absolutely remarkable. But also the fact that you were such a shitty human being. You made my bestie cry. I don't mean to sound dramatic, but that just proves of how, once again, how much of a shitty human being you are.
Honestly, yeah, I think the ugliest I've ever felt was in a relationship with him. The ugliest, the least confident I've ever felt. I mean, I felt like I could, like I said, like I felt like he was my oxygen tank and I needed to breathe. I needed him to breathe, you know? There's conversations where I sit, like I've thought about, like I've said this before with the Walmart conversation.
Oh my
Where
god.
we were walking to get condoms and he looked, and I told him I wanted to live on my own. And this was before I moved in with him. That I wanted to live on my own at one point and like have my own apartment. And he just like looked at me and just like laughed in my face. But that, it's moments like that where people are like, oh, like that doesn't sound like a big deal. But I'm like, imagine that
so
all the time.
discouraging.
No,
and
imagine that all the time. Any idea of like any concept that something I
putting you
wanted to
down.
try. Yeah, it was like very much like you could never, because I have this thought and image of you that
That I
can't
need you
can't
to
alter,
yeah.
can't be altered, you know? And like again, not to bring back the human experience, but I
The
was
human experience.
but I was being denied that, you know? Like, and I wasn't given the approval to change.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so hard, is that like I wasn't given the approval to change, and if I messed up, I was such a horrible human being, you know? And like I again, like what makes it worse is the age dynamic. I know like 2-3 years is not much of a difference for some people, but you have to think about when those people are, it's different when someone's 22 to 24, right? Like that's a different 22, 24, you're about in the same like life period where you're like leaving college and like
Frontal lobe developing.
your frontal lobe is,
supposedly for him.
I mean, if you're neurodivergent, it actually develops closer to when you're in 30s, but
God, you and I are fucked.
I know we're fucked.
Oh my god.
But like, you know, like you're 22, 24, you're starting to think about your life, like what you want to do and like what you want to do long term. Like there's so many, you're an actual adult, like you've lived a couple years now outside of the home probably, or like are starting to move away from home. Like there's just, you're already becoming an actual adult. When you are 18 to 20, 18 to 21, 19 to 21, you're dealing with somebody who is in the middle, about to head into that life, versus somebody who's being introduced into that life. And like it is a very difficult, I know some people make it work and some people have been together since like 20-30 years, but like that dynamic is very difficult, and that dynamic can be easily turned really toxic, I think.
Yeah. And the thing with him is he would just never, he's never going to get out of that bubble. He's never going to get out of that mindset.
I wish I'm grown. I wish him all the best. I hate him, but I wish him all
We hate him. We absolutely despise him. And if he's listening to this, you're because no, I'm being serious, and we're not bleeping that word out because we get to say it. But genuinely, the other thing that really, and this is the thing that's like,
okay,
shows you anything about a person's sexuality, because that's your business at the end of the day. And whoever you decide that you're attracted to and you want to be, you owe nobody any explanation whatsoever. But the fact that he, for the longest time, not only was very homophobic, not only towards himself.
Oh, I was like, where was he being homophobic? Did I miss
Not just towards himself.
He was no, he wasn't being homophobic.
He was being, what's the word? I'm forgetting the word.
He was being, well, okay, I will say this. He was sexualized.
Yes, there we go. There we go. That's what I meant.
And it's the same problem with a lot of straight cis men where they find women on women sexy. And like, you know?
Yes.
Like he was okay, not to air it out. He was okay with the idea of another girl in a threesome, but not another guy.
The homophobia.
The homophobia. Yeah.
But the other thing, he tried so hard to suppress who you really
Oh, I mean,
in terms of your
when
gender
he
identity.
said he wasn't used to the they them or whatever, it's
Oh
a
my
lie.
God.
It's a
All the
lie.
time.
All my friends corrected him all the time anytime they
Sid's
were
true.
over. Sid can say that for a
Sid is
Sid.
true.
If
Sid, if you're
if
listening,
Sid was sitting here, if Sid was sitting here right now, she'd be like, I literally would say they them, and it's like it's not like I've never shown him my binder.
Yeah.
So like.
And first
That's
of
the
all,
thing. True. I forgot about that.
And here's
That's the
the-
thing is that like he always and listen, I'm healed. I know it doesn't seem like I'm
Listen,
not.
human experience.
Listen, human experience. Listen to me. But like, it's so crazy how he tried to diminish it by saying he was ignorant, but he
was genuinely
using my pronouns incorrectly.
and not
And like,
only
I know some people like that's not a big deal or whatever. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. If
But
you're
also-
trying to be like all open and inclusive, like at least do it with who you're dating.
and at least try. It's not hard to like. I get like for certain people it's a little difficult. For example, and I'm not trying to defend anyone on this, but for example, if someone had multiple strokes and now unfortunately they have a tough time remembering things.
Yeah.
There's an exception there, right? But
Right.
if you're a conscious human being and you are very well aware of this person who has different pronouns and who is not conforming to a certain gender and they're non-binary and you're actively choosing, you're like, oh, I know, I just don't want to say it.
But
You're
that's
a
the thing.
dick.
It just shows that I don't have to
You're an
prove it.
asshole.
I don't have to prove it. I don't have to show it to you. It's in there in
But so
writing.
you're fucking my bestie who happens to be queer and non-binary, and the fact that you kept doing that and you're like, yeah, and you try to pretend that, they were a cis woman. I just want to point this out. You're
I mean, yeah, like if I I couldn't even dress
once again, we can say it. We can say it. I'm queer myself.
Anyway.
For the normies, I'm gay.
Anyway.
I'm gay. I'm a total. Oh, this. Nobody can report me.
I'm reporting you to
Just
YouTube.
bleep that out.
I'm reporting you myself. A little bit inappropriate. We should launch an investigation. No. The thing is, and all of that just proves my point, and what I'm saying is that he never saw me for who I was. He only saw me for the image that he himself set in his brain as to who I was. Like, I mean, and it's like he enjoyed the fact that like he could put me in that box. I swear on my life, on my mother's grave, my mother's life, like there was one time where we were sitting and like we were at this like dinner with his parents, and like I think I just expressed to him that I was into film. And obviously I'm still am. Obviously I'm producing this thing with you. But and like again, people are like, well, why would that matter? It matters to me, okay?
It absolutely
matters to me. So his thing was to embarrass me in front of people
all the time.
all the time, whether it was embarrassing me in front of my friends or my close friends or his parents, because there was
pushing you to the lowest level.
or he liked to put me on the spot because we were having dinner and I couldn't remember what led into this conversation, but he outed that I never said I wanted to go into career as film. I've dreamt about it, but honestly, like I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
I think I've also just invested so much time now, like into my degree, that like I kind of enjoy the thing that I've been doing, and also like I can do film as a side thing. It can't. I. That's the thing, is that you can do so many things that you want if you put your heart to it.
Right.
But I told his parents, like I was like, yeah, like I want to go into law and like going to law school, which still is my plan.
Yeah.
And he just like sits there and quiet, and he goes, yeah, Azazel actually wants to go into film. And it, like in retrospectively, some people are like, why is that a terrible thing? You should have felt the judgment in the room. That's what it was. It was I was like put on the spot, and suddenly eyes were on me, and it looked like I was being judged for wanting to be into the arts or whatever
Oh my God.
by his parents. And like I couldn't say anything other than like, oh, it's like a side hobby or whatever. And it almost felt like, oh my God, like I have to come up with something now. Like
Yeah.
I just like went into the car on the way home fuming because I was like, I know you, why would you say that knowing in the context like I would get humiliated?
Why
Like
don't you fucking say that?
why?
You fucking small dick man.
True. But
Which,
like,
by the way, size doesn't matter, but in this case,
it does.
for him, just
But like
because,
really,
you
it
know,
was like
not discriminating
you-
against chodes. We're
it
not saying
didn't
man.
it didn't feel like
Promise.
it didn't feel like oh, like I'm gonna mention this because my partner's interested. I'm gonna mention this because I know
It's going to humiliate them, and it's going to give me the reaction I need to be just like, oh, see, this is why you shouldn't be doing it. Fucking dickhead.
I know, and it's like I felt like I was going crazy. I was like,
And would you,
man,
if you're listening to this right now, which you probably are because you're such a fucking
I hope he doesn't listen to this
like,
because
if I
if
suck the biggest, fattest dick of your life, you need it, you tiny, egotistical, narcissistic man. If I ever see you again, I swear to
you know what's
fucking
so
God.
funny is that he say I would never wear a bikini in the summer that we broke up. When I went into Sid's pool, I wore a bikini.
You can die.
Like I think if I wore this outfit, even this outfit, he'd be like, "You would never wear this." Like if he saw me like this, he'd be like, "Death." Even like okay, like for an example, the outfits that I wear now on like nights out and stuff. Or going to the bar, he would literally if
Attack and die.
he would be like, "You cannot wear that.
You can't go outside like that.
You would never wear that." Actually, he would be like, "Haha, you would never wear that." He would make me so insecure that I would have to take it off. That's exactly how it would happen.
You in a derogatory way, not in a slay way, because there is a difference. He would look at you derogatorily and say, "You're a slut."
You're a slut.
And unlike me and said, we're like, "Oh my God, you're a slut." Like, no, like he would be like, "Oh, I'm going back to the 60s."
If he was a girl, he'd be 100% a pick me. I'll just say
I
that.
don't even want to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't even want to.
But all this to say, people, just to kind of
Not to go off on a tangent.
just to like wrap it up, because actually that kind of is this point of this episode, is those things that you hear that you would only think would happen in like drama shows or TV shows, or even at times not even reality. Never, what I'm trying to say is never automatically assume that it's not as bad as people think.
Yeah.
Because I think us as human beings, we can sometimes lose that empathy and just be sympathetic. And there is a huge difference. But I think for me personally, what I would like to tell people is that the reason I'm sharing this story, my story, and the reason why Azazel is sharing theirs, is to not get this huge reaction out of people, or to like even be out there and be like, "Oh, start a mob and go do," like, no, it's to let people know like this shit happens. And it can happen to anybody, anywhere. And I think the most crucial thing any one of us can do, even though me and Azazel now look back and joke on it, which we can, because that's our way of like coping.
Baby daddy.
Baby daddy. Oh my God. We're not talking about that one.
My baby daddy.
We're not even talking about that one yet. It's
Did you guys want to hear the baby daddy story? I think it's the funniest story I
Oh my
have.
God, no. But it's too.
That involves baby daddy, Facebook, and chlamydia.
I think it's ultimately in the end to remind people, y'all just need to be self-aware and kind, and honestly take into account that everyone has their own events, their own stories, their own everything, and you never know what somebody has gone through. And to start off this podcast in this way, I think not only one has it helped me come to terms with a lot more things, and even to this day, like even just now recording this, but having my bestie here, it's healing and it's wonderful. And I think that everyone should just learn that no matter what has happened and no matter what you have gone through, eventually that healing journey is going to just keep going. And like Azazel said, and I'm so happy they said it, but there's no timestamp. There should never be. And I think to this day, I'm still going to be healing from so much of everything that's happened in my life. Especially
You know why?
because you know why?
This episode actually the human experience. I'm obsessed with that.
I'm obsessed with it. I have to say for this one. And just remember to be kind and don't be a dick.
Yeah,
really.
don't be a dick.
Please don't.
You know what? We'll just tell her we met during the second episode. I think that's
we
better.
will. I think that would be the best one. But right, thank you for listening to the very first one. This is basically like back to back. We are going to be recording the second episode in any moment, but I think for
I need
now.
to talk to my bae.
Oh my God, your bae.
The one who sips for him more than me. Anyways, can I read the text? Hold on, audience, just so you know.
Oh my God.
Just so, like, I'll just leave it at this. And hold on, where is it? Where's LMG? You didn't say OMG. LMG. He's so cute. I embarrassed myself. I got nervous. Trickles.
Thank you for listening to episode 1.
Bestie episode.
Episode 2. Okay, go listen to that one.